All right, people. You know, we're talking about Super Bowl. We can talk about how the referees blew the call at the end of the game, which is clearly holding, is the reason the 49ers lost the game. But according to Chris Carter, Michael Crabtree, who Chris Carter is now something an expert in NFL football wide receivers, because he happened to play in an era when quarterbacks weren't as big, weren't as strong, and weren't as fast as they are today. You lucky you played in that era, Chris Carter, because if you played today, you'd be nothing more than a third-string receiver or a practice squad receiver. Oh, he ran the wrong route, this and that, or sport route. If a penalty is a penalty in the first quarter, you get these announcers, analysts, so tiki barber them saying, well, you don't want to let the referees decide the game. It's a penalty. You have to call it. But that's not why the 49ers lost the game. No. That's not why they lost the game. It had nothing to do with that penalty. It had everything to do with the most overrated coach in the history of the National Football League. Big games. James W. Harbaugh. Second game in a row, this guy got his team out to a 17-0 deficit against Atlanta and a 28-6 deficit against the Baltimore Ravens because he didn't have his team prepared to play. Me being a Browns fan, I've seen this all throughout the year this year. Jim Harbaugh is severely overrated. He got severely outcoached by his brother, John Harbaugh. You know, I was wrong when I first said that Alex Smith. I admit I was wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong. When he came out here and he had Alex Smith benched for Colin Kaepernick, I said, big mistake. I was wrong. The only thing Jim Harbaugh is a great quarterbacks coach. So if I'm the 49ers right now, it's a no-brainer. I fire him, make him demote him down to quarterbacks coach and hire somebody else. Because I'm telling you right now, the play calling down at the red zone was horrendous. And how in the hell do you have the most gifted quarterback in today's game, the most versatile weapon on the football field today, Colin Kaepernick, and you did not have one planned run from him all game. You didn't have it at one time, but it was a penalty snap, but you had zero planned runs for him all game. I mean, you had the most versatile weapon sitting back there, and you did nothing with him. That is why you got out to a 28-6 deficit. Your offense squandered late in the first half. You had a chance to go for 7 or touchdown, and you settled for 3 because of your play calling. Now, my thing I would have spread the Ravens out. Went 5 wide. Someone would have had to count for Kaepernick. And guess what? When they didn't, he'd run for 20 here. He'd run. So it was poor coaching by James W. Harbaugh, which led to the 49ers losing this game. The Ravens had a better team. Bottom line is they had a better Harbaugh. And when you have a better Harbaugh, you win the game. I mean, and then Frank Gore at the end of the game, listen, it looked like you were slowing up. I don't know what you thought you were going to score or whatever, but you didn't. You got to put your nose down and go for the end zone there. But that does not excuse the poor, inefficient play calling down there in the last minute of the game at the goal line by James W. Harbaugh. And then you guys went for 2 points, and it was like, you guys didn't even have any, it was just like, well, we're going to go this play. You knew they were blitzing. You had no one sitting back there aside the block for Kaepernick. He was a dead duck. Now, Flacco played a great game, no doubt about it, but Colin Kaepernick was the star of this game. He was going to win the game or he was going to lose the game. And guess what? He lost the game because James W. Harbaugh poorly executed his game plan again. 2 weeks in a row, and I didn't hear one of these analysts talk about this on ESPN, NFL Network, about how 2 weeks in a row his team was severely underperforming at the beginning of the game. 17-0 deficit against Atlanta and 28-6 against the Ravens. They weren't prepared to play. But none of these so-called NFL analysts, experts, came out there and said that. You know why? Because they don't know the game of football like me. Chris Carter, you might be able to catch better than me, but you don't know the game of football like me. Okay? So when you come out here and say that Michael Crabtree ran a bad route, what makes you an expert now? If you played in today's game, you'd be a 49er practice player squad. That's all you'd be. So you're lucky you played when you did. The bottom line is, when you have the most efficient, elusive, strong, 6'5", 240-pound beast weapon, a weapon the NFL has never seen before, and you don't utilize him to his strength? You didn't have one planned rush from Colin Kaepernick all game? The one when he scored on a touchdown was total improvisation from him. Jim Harbaugh, you lost this game. You let your team down once again. But as far as I'm concerned, if it's a penalty in the first quarter, you got to call that. Late in the game, people say, well, it wasn't catchable. That's because he was held in the end zone, couldn't get to the goddamn ball. So a lot of people say sour grapes. I could care less. I'm not a 49er fan, and I'm not a Raven fan. I'm a Browns fan. And I just, to see Harbaugh just let this game get away from him again, it was embarrassing. 49ers clearly the more dominant team. Ray Lewis, you had a great game. 7 tackles? Couldn't cover nobody once again. You lived off reputation once again. So Ray Lewis, and you notice one thing about Ray Lewis, I got to give Jim Nantz credit. He had that mic in his hand. He would not release that mic so Ray Lewis could go on there. No weapons! No weapons! No weapons! When God prosper, it's beautiful. He wouldn't let it happen. Because no one wants to hear that shit, man, for real. So, congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens for going up against inferior Harbaugh, who was outcoached once again. And Harbaugh, listen, you are a great quarterbacks coach. You should do the 49ers some justice and say, look, I want to be demoted. I don't have the capability of game planning and making in-game adjustments. Second half comes, you're lucky they had that goddamn light outage. You're lucky they had that light outage. Guess what? Y'all would have been blown out the game. Blown out the game. So, what did we learn here today? Chris Carter would be a practice squad receiver in today's game. Jim Harbaugh don't know how to use the greatest quarterback in the league today. The most efficient weapon in the game. Everyone say, RG3. RG3's 185 pounds. This kid's 240 pounds with a fucking cannon arm. Puts the ball on the line. Wherever he puts it, it goes. It goes. And you don't use him at all. One play and run the whole game and it was called back by a penalty. So you basically had 0. Your red zone attempts were garbage. What the hell? Who was calling the plays down there? And one other thing to the Ravens fans, after talking about Caldwell, what a great game plan he called. Man, listen. A good coach offensively would have blew this 49er team out. They would have never got back in the game. Bottom line is Jim Harbaugh's easy to defend against. This game should have been over. But John Harbaugh, who's a better coach, you outcoach him. And John Harbaugh, I got one thing to say. You had the nerve to say that your brother Jim's the best coach in the National Football League? Are you kidding me? I know that's where the old saying brotherly love comes from. Brotherly love. Because Jim Harbaugh was, honestly, I would take Pat Shurmur over Jim Harbaugh. And that's bad. That's bad. So 49ers, I know you guys are from Youngstown, Ohio, Denise and John York. If you want to contact me about your head coaching vacancy, that I'm sure will happen. Because after you watch this video and you see how I exploited his deficiencies, you're going to say to yourself, you know what, that guy's right. We did not use our weapon one time the whole game. That's why you were out to a 21-6 halftime deficit. That's why you didn't use Kaepernick the way you should have. If you'd went 5 wide, you would have had to make someone account for Kaepernick at all times, which would have led to somebody getting open, and if they didn't account for him, bloop, bloop, he would have had 100 yards by halftime. And you guys would have been up 35-3 or something like that. That's why I need to be a head coach out there. Anybody in the National Football League, whatever, I will take any job right now. Equipment manager, whatever, just to get my fucking foot, my size 12.5 in that door. So that in about 3 years, I could become a head coach. You think Ray Lewis is a leader? He would be on my staff being a follower. I am a leader. So to anybody out there that owns an NFL franchise, whoever the Kansas City Chiefs owner is, Lamar Hunt, I don't know if you still are or whatever, you hired Andy Reid, who's garbage. Hire me. Bring me in there. Oh, and one other thing, too, about this Rooney Rule, this and that. We're hearing about people crying about not enough minorities are hired in the National Football League. Who gives a flying fuck? The teams that hired, well, they're talking about Lovie Smith, right? Lovie Smith's offense sucked. His teams fell apart the last 2 years late in the season. Who gives a flying fuck if Lovie Smith gets hired as a head coach or whatever? An NFL owner who spent billions of dollars for his team will hire the best person available. If it's a black guy, if there's a black Bill Belichick, he'll get hired. What scares me is next year Ray Horton, who's the defense coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, will get a head coaching job. And he's going to be taken away from the Browns. But he will get hired. Do you understand that? It's not about color in the NFL as far as minorities goes, coaching vacancies. It's about offensive tendencies. The NFL is leaning towards offense right now. And there are no black offensive gurus in the league right now. Okay? Lovie Smith ain't a black offensive guru. He's a black defensive guru. So, Stephen A. Smith, whatever, racist, whatever, quit crying about this bullshit, all right? Anybody. It's not about racism, why someone don't get hired in the NFL. It's about need, what a team needs. Now, I will say this. Why you hired Andy Reid, I don't know why. The guy's a total joke. I would have never hired him, but that's just me. So let's get that out of the question. But congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens for having the superior Harbaugh in Denise and Edward York or whatever. Or Denise and John York. I expect to hear from you real soon about the coaching vacancy for the 49ers. If I'd have been coaching, I'd have spread that fucking Raven team out. I'd have made Ray Lewis drop back in coverage. And guess what? We would have been up by 40 points at halftime. Guaranteed. But see, Harbaugh, he's a quarterback's coach. He don't have the mind I have. It's hard to believe this guy actually played. He actually was a decent quarterback one time. And you know what it is why I'm better than these guys? Because I know the defensive side of football. And I know being a defensive fucking player, what I hated to go up against. And 5 wide, I did not want no part of it. I just wanted to get back at that quarterback. I don't want to drop back in coverage. You think Ray Lewis wants to drop back in coverage? Especially being as slow as he is right now? Hell no. You would think Harbaugh would recognize that. Dumbass.